Hello, everybody. It's me, Countess, and I have a question for you all. Do you believe in fairy tales? And I'm not talking about the fairy tale that comes from the book we know as the Memoirs of Billy Shears, but like actual fairy tales, like from, the Brothers Grimm, stories that were told to you as a child, that they always had some sort of message that they drove home, right? Stranger danger, taking responsibility for your actions, being a good person. And if you do what you're supposed to do, then things will just fall into place for you, right? Fairy tale land. Definitely not reality, because reality, especially these days, seems to be getting a little flipped upside down. I was going over with my 13-year-old this past week, helping her with a project on analyzing a fairy tale. And while we were, doing some research for it, I helped her do research. I came across this article, and it's from a website called Occult Mysteries. And it is an article about Rumpelstiltskin. And I read it, and it's about the occult significance of Rumpelstiltskin. So that made me start thinking, I know I've heard about Rumpelstiltskin, I've read something. What was it? It's in the Memoirs, guys. On page 465, yes. Bill has this to say about the character Rumpelstiltskin. Pressing the question about my name, I am as Rumpelstiltskin, the old fairy tale character. In England, based on Joseph Jacobs' translation of the tale collected by the Brothers Grimm, we know that the little villain as Tom Tit Tot, in the traditional version of that amusing old story, some commoner sought to look important by boasting that he had a daughter who could spin straw into gold. The king called the man's bluff. He locked the girl in a tower with straw and the spinning wheel. He insisted that she spin the straw into gold by morning for the next 3 nights. If she succeeded, he would let her go. Otherwise, she would be executed. When she could not do it, a gifted substitute showed up to do it for her. See me there? I am the substitute. This magical mystery guy who made the gold secretly let her take the credit, but was paid for it. And then let's just note real quick the footnote down here. You see at the very top of this paragraph, Billy's all-seeing eye correlates to a footnote saying, after using the song Live and Let Die in Shrek the Third from 2007, there was a discussion about Sir Paul providing the voice talent of Rumpelstiltskin in Shrek Forever After. That was in 2010. With that possibility, but without an agreement for it, William included his symbolic connection with the character in the Memoirs to publish the meaning before fans saw him play that part. Turning the page. So this continues the story that the substitute got her necklace for the first night's work. The king was amazed. The next night, the substitute willingly worked for her ring. The king was again impressed. The third night, the substitute, who had been producing this gold, without his hidden name ever receiving the credit, agreed to do his magic for the girl one more time if she would pledge to him her firstborn child. To keep her, or Paul, alive, she agreed. Without the substitute ever revealing his name, he continued his magical work. He made more gold than ever. Overcome with awe as well as greed, the king married the girl. When their first child was born, payment came due. The girl, now the queen, offered all her wealth to keep the child. The substitute at last agreed to give up his claim to the big payment. If the queen could guess his name. Then all his fortune ended when she did learn his name. Since I have that same risk, you know my name, only in fiction. You know my name, look up the number. So, first off, with him talking about, the whole story about spinning straw into gold, right? That, again, harkens to alchemical imagery, alchemical. He is our gold-winged beetle, our scarab, right? It always circles back to alchemy. So with what Mr. William just told us in the memoirs, I want to transition to this article, and I think you guys will find it very interesting because I sure did. Okay, so this analysis was one of 3 different stories that this writer sort of analyzed and talked about the occult significance and meaning of each fairy tale. I'll leave a link in the descriptions if you guys want to check out the other ones. So this story bears the unmistakable signs of having been derived from the ancient mystery teachings, the mystery schools. Could you have ever thought that? Each of the 3 main characters is prepared to sacrifice the miller's grandchild for personal gain. The miller wants to impress the king is greedy for gold, and the goblin demands a living thing, a strange desire that the author will come back to later. So let's start at the beginning with the miller's boast that his daughter can spin straw into gold. Straw is wheat, and this had considerable esoteric significance as the fruit of experience in the mythos of ancient Egypt, as well as in the religious doctrines of other nations. So we may say that spinning straw into gold is a metaphor for reaping spiritual wisdom from earthly experience. No one is born with this ability. We have to learn or be taught how to accomplish it. Enter Rumplestiltskin, who, though ultimately a baddie, is the means by which the miller's daughter escapes the awful fate the king had threatened her with should she fail her task. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. That's economics 101 right there, guys. The goblin wants something in return, of course. In fact, he takes 3 things from the miller's daughter. Firstly, her necklace, then her ring, and finally, after her marriage to the king, he covets her unborn child. This reminds me of the story of Ishtar. In that story or legend, the goddess has to give up her necklace and her earrings and her clothes in order to pass through the gates of the underworld. This is the age-old allegory of giving something up in order to gain something of greater value. In Ishtar's case, she is reunited with her soul, symbolized by her lover in this fairy tale. It is the life of the miller's daughter and that of her unborn child that is at hazard. I have emphasized the number 3 as it appears several times throughout this fairy tale. Rumpelstiltskin turns the spinning wheel 3 times. The king takes the girl into 3 progressively bigger rooms filled with straw, giving her 3 chances to prove her skill. The little man appears for the 3rd time to demand the promise of the queen's unborn child. Finally, Rumpelstiltskin gives her 3 days to discover his name. 3 has been called the number of wisdom because it symbolizes the Holy Trinity, common to almost all religious systems. So it is not surprising to find it cropping up repeatedly in this tale, as well as in many other fairy tales. 3 wise men are mentioned in the biblical account of the Nativity. Peter betrayed Jesus 3 times. There are 3 kinds of light known and recognized by occultists: the abstract and the absolute light, which is darkness to our physical sight, the light that illuminates the astral world, and the thirdly light we are familiar with on earth. Do not neglect numerology if you want to discover the hidden meanings in fairy tales. Well, in most anything, numerology, especially in the memoirs, has played a huge part, right? So this continues. The successful resolution of many fairy tales depends on discovering the name of the adversary, and Rumpelstiltskin is no exception. This refers to the universal superstition that knowing the name of something or someone gives the possessor power over it or them. Yes, very important. Much magical lore depends on the application of this principle. In ancient China, it was common to change one's name at certain times during life in order to obtain good fortune and avoid bad. J.R. Tolkien uses it to great effect in Lord of the Rings to circumvent the designs of Sauron, and it's the essential ingredient in magical evocation. In strict Judaism, the letters YHVH are used as a substitute for the name of God, which must not be spoken. In the Harry Potter books by J.K. Rowling, the evil wizard Voldemort is referred to as he who must not be named by his followers and enemies alike. Putting a name to evil was not only to invoke it, but also to disarm it by gaining power over the thing named. It is probably for this reason that when the queen reveals that she has discovered Rumpelstiltskin's name, he kills himself. In the edition of 1819, I have used he does this by tearing himself in 2. Let's look at it again. We read, The devil told you that. The devil told you that, the little man screamed. And in his rage, he stamped his right foot so hard that it went into the ground up to his waist. He put his right foot down. That was a little wings pun right there. Then, in his fury, he took his left foot in both hands and tore himself in two. It's almost as if the two brothers did have some occult knowledge, or rather a lot of occult knowledge. The left and right sides of the body, and especially the left and right feet, are very ancient ways of referring to the lower and higher selves in the special allegorical language of the mysteries. Perhaps it was just a lucky guess on the part of the two German folklorists, or inspiration from the fiery ocean they mentioned earlier. That was something we didn't go over. We will never know. What I would say is that this is too suggestive of the separation of the two minds, one going one way and one going the other, after death, to be a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. Rumpelstiltskin says when the queen, in her agony, she promises him all the riches in the kingdom if not only he will let her keep her child. He replies, "No, I'd sooner have a living thing than all the treasures in the world." Now, whether he intended to sacrifice the child to appease the devil or had some other aim in mind, the fact that he chose a living thing is not without significance. For life, as occultists know and understand, is the Alpha and the Omega of all things and being. Life is the true elixir, greater than material power, wealth, or fame. The miller cared more about power than his own daughter. The king cared more about acquiring gold than the life of the girl. But the evil little goblin valued life itself above all else. I wonder whether the brothers Grimm realized the irony of letting the devil deliver his piece of wisdom. Yes, and that is the end of it. And she says, you can find a full list of the stories she's written for occult mysteries at the end of the sidebar in the website. So I'll leave a link to it. What do you guys think about that? I find that very interesting that, just as Bill was talking about him being the substitute, it is that universal superstition that knowing the name of something or someone gives the possessor power over it or them. Yeah, Billy has complete power with the name Paul McCartney. He has an immense amount of power because of that name. So, the story talks about, Billy taking on the name of Paul, but it also kind of relates to the whole story of like Ishtar, or the girl, the miller's daughter, having to sacrifice something to gain something of bigger value, right? That totally correlates to William having to give up his entire life, his entire identity for something greater, to fill the shoes of one of the world's most famous pop stars ever, a living legend. I just really thought that this was interesting how all of it correlates with Bill's life, him being Rumpelstiltskin. Like, how perfect is that? I just think it's very fitting once you kind of do get the sort of occult significance of Rumpelstiltskin or any fairy tale, basically. You know, they're all allegories, parables to teach lessons. You know, the moral of the story, it's to program and instill social values and morals into children so they grow up acting and behaving certain ways. So I just found this really fascinating, so I wanted to share it with all of you. So please let me know what your thoughts are on it. I hope you all have a very safe and happy holiday season. Like I said, I'm going to try to be putting out a couple more videos while I have time off of work in the next couple weeks. So that's all I have for you guys. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. So take care, guys. Bye.
But though they may be parted, there is still a chance, Bill, that they will see.